From day one of deciding to review Star Wars novels, I was so gassed to look into Ronin, a Visions novel. I figured it'd be like an Akira Kurosawa samurai film with some Star Wars shit thrown in. After all, the Ronin was possibly the most memorable part of the Visions Disney Plus show, so I figured it had to be cool pretty simply. Not to mention it's kind of a treat to get some non-canon Star Wars material here and there that can take the terminology, themes, and purpose and toss it into a new and unique direction, while bending the fabric of the Star Wars universe. Anyhow, the book is fucking terrible, utter garbage, almost irredeemable, and probably the worst thing I read in this series to date. I don't throw out phases like fucking terrible lightly, but this book to me was incomprehensible if I'm being honest. This book is an expansion of the Visions short, The Duel, and as such creates an entire world out of 13 minutes featured in that short, and squeezing it into an over 300-page novel. It was written as the first book from Emma Miko Candon, with this being their first full-length novel. The author's mission being to focus on LGBT books and stuff, heavily incorporating that into their characters. Apparently, one of the characters in this book was trans, which I didn't realize till I read about the author on Wikipedia, since I genuinely had no idea what was happening in this book past the first chapter, which was a novelization of the episode. I tried very hard to understand how this book came to be, but upon research, I don't know it all. This person seemingly just went and applied online to have a job writing this book, or perhaps they sent in a half-finished draft as a pitch and it was released without being edited. Honestly, guys, I have no clue. Normally it's like, oh yeah, so-and-so got their start working on some random sci-fi novel series no one heard of till they landed the Star Wars gig. That I get. I don't know where this person came from or why they got this novel. Like, I literally can't find anything out about this person or book besides the fact that it exists and I have endured it. Ronin, a Vision novel, is a non-canon tie-in to the Vision show, which it itself is non-canon, and thus there isn't really a date that can be attached to this new interpretation of the Star Wars universe. Ronin follows a Ronin who is haunted by the ghosts of the Sith he's killed through their kyber crystals, which he collects as they have magical powers associated with them, with Kuru, the Sith, becoming a Sith demon that would follow and haunt him throughout the book. Soon after this, he meets a crew, including the Traveler, aboard a ship, the Poor Crow, as they travel to collect kyber crystals, fighting people like Handuri along the way. In the end, one of the Sith witches in his head turns out to be his daughter, a reveal that felt Scooby-Doo-esque and frankly kind of out of nowhere. His daughter was also at one point his lover, which seemed a little fetishy, to be honest. Like, this ain't old boy. You can't be pulling that writing like this. The Ronin then dies, but actually he didn't, since this novel had no rules or internal consistency. The author doesn't really describe fights much, they just kinda happen. The Ronin hunts down Sith, but the problem is that the Ronin, well cool, has motivations that are unknown, and he isn't much of a talker. He wants to collect these kyber crystals and repent for his past, I guess. I need more of an explanation on what he's doing and why. It didn't really make sense to me. The book gets better halfway through, but by that point I had such little interest in the story and was kind of confused by the whole thing. It has too much lore, but is also massively confusing and underexplains that lore. I complain often about books being overdescribed, and this book is certainly one that has too much written for its own good, and it falls into the novel trap of saying so much, yet nothing interesting or important to the actual story at hand. It's just too confusing and convoluted. Characters frequently die and come back, and it's unironically impossible to follow. There's a lot of identity stuff in this book, which only adds to the confusion. The book will describe characters as he, she, or they at such a rapid pace, along with switching between names, like the Ronin, who is also known as the Ronin, Grim, he. There's the Traveler, who is also known as Fox, and they used they-them pronouns, and all of those names are thrown around like it's nobody's business, so interchangeably that I literally have no idea who's talking, saying what, or thinking what at any given time. It's really hard to follow. I don't know why a short, uncomplicated short film became such a long, convoluted book. There are tons of Jedi, Sith. The Ronin hates both, but is a former Sith. Jedi work for the Empire, but they're kind of like Republic good guys, sort of. There are also Sith who he kills, but then they become ghosts or something and haunt him. But not really, since they also have like immortal zombies, but kyber crystals can defend from evil spirits. Then the unnamed Emperor created the Sith to kill the Jedi. The book also takes itself seriously, yet is packed with quips, jokes, and other things, which is also weird, since Ronins in film are often quiet and wise. I think this could have made a good anime OVA, like just expanding the original short. Ronin feels like such a visual character over a novel character, and the prose are so confusing that I think at least I could somewhat comprehend what was going on with all these ghosts and whatnot. It's a subpar samurai novel with Star Wars terminology, and the most disappointing novel I've read yet. Honestly, should have been shorter. No one is interesting, and it makes it very skippable, especially since it's not part of the larger history anyways. The book feels like one run-on sentence, not fleshed out, and the father plot is just too little too late to make any sense within the larger narrative of the book that, like a lot of this book, just kind of feels like an idea made up on a whim from the author and not something they actually wanted to plant into the narrative. This book is based on a 13-minute fight scene and expands the fuck out of it, coming out wildly boring, confusing, and frankly just not good. Since this book came out, nothing like this has been attempted since, and I think that might be for the best. I think the story of the Ronin didn't need this. He could have just existed exclusively in that 13-minute short, and they could have never touched him again. That was totally fine. Anyhow, critically, this book didn't do bad, but certainly didn't do good either. I would say it was mixed to bad, and looking at Goodreads, randos like me also seemingly didn't love the book, and I felt pretty validated that the book made no sense after reading that pretty much everyone else was really confused too. Ultimately, this wasn't solely the fault of the author, who wrote what they know, and I think that was to mixed results. There is imagination for days, lore for days. They built an entire universe, and the LGBT topics seemingly interest the author. The problem is, none of that is really needed for the narrative, and I would argue if you're going to expand on something like this, you need someone who is able to succinctly and simply expand the world, or better yet, just make an OVA or an animated film expanding on this short. At the end of the day, the editors from Del Rey also failed to clean this book up, and Emma Candon made a book far too confusing for people to really understand what was going on, and it was really lost in its own plot, which should have just been a samurai explores around this universe and fights some Sith.